Hi all. This is a couple days after Halloween. I think it's November 3rd. Um, and my dog won't leave me alone. No, go away. um, so I have never been to a haunted house before. Despite like being such a huge horror buff and everything, I have never actually been to any kind of haunted house. Um, and so me and my roommate Ash and I, we went to a haunted house here in Des Moines, Iowa, called Sleepy Hollow. Um, we had originally hoped to go to a different one called Slaughterhouse. Because Slaughterhouse is supposed to be a little more intense and scarier, but we ended up going to Sleepy Hollow because Slaughterhouse was, for whatever reason, closed on Halloween, which is really weird and kind of a terrible idea if you ask me. I mean, why would you not have a haunted house open on Halloween? I don't know. But we ended up going to Sleepy Hollow, and I had such a good time. I pretty much had the time of my life. I don't know why she's I don't know. Anyway, I had such an incredible time, and I just want to talk about that. Like what we did at Sleepy Hollow, and everything we did on Halloween in general. So for Sleepy Hollow, we paid, I believe it was $30 for the park pass, which gets you into everything, to every attraction. And they also had zombie paintball, which was oodles of fun. The ride for the zombie paintball only lasted probably about maybe like, I think it was like 7 or 8 minutes. I said it wasn't very long, but it was still a really good time. You get into a bus with the windows. There's no windows, and you sit down behind a paintball gun. And they gave you 50 paintballs to begin with, but you could pay $5 for another 50, which I did because I figured I would probably want to shoot as many zombies as possible. So all in all, I had 100 paintballs, and it was a lot of fun. They most of them were moving zombies, like people in like body armor, so it didn't hurt them. There were a few that were just like dummies held up on poles, which was okay. One of the zombies actually turned around and mooned us, so we all, and of course because he did that, we all shot him in the ass. I mean, you can't, like, a zombie moons you and you don't shoot them in the ass. Come on. So outside of zombie paintball, we went to, I think it was 5 haunted houses, and they were all different. But I mean, they're basically the same. In that there are jump scares, people following you, chainsaws, clowns with chainsaws and shit like that. So it was a good time. My favorite one, there were two of them that were really great. One of them was called The Freak Show. It was a little bit longer than the others, and it was really, really good. They had Ash, my roommate Ash. I think honestly, horror movies have kind of jaded us because we get in there and we're not really terribly scared of all the actors jumping out at us or waving chainsaws at us. And honestly, it's I'm sure it was kind of obnoxious for them too, because a lot of them, I was at the back, and so a lot of them popped up behind me, or they would scream behind me, and I didn't realize they were there because I can't really hear that well behind me. So I'd love to know what they thought, because it's like that's kind of be obnoxious, like your job is to scare the shit out of people, and you do your best, and somebody doesn't even acknowledge that you exist, I don't know. But it was a good time. So the 200 houses, we had the Freak Show, which was great. And it was a little extra great because they actually kind of interacted with you a little more than the others. They said, like, one of the clowns was like, "We're on a humanitarian diet. We eat only humans." And Ash was like, "Oh, how do you prepare them?" And the guy was like, one of the clowns was like, "With a little cilantro." And I think the fact that he actually interacted and talked to us made it a little more fun. And then the other one, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a really, really good one too. We walked in. There were two rooms that really stuck out and that I really liked. One of the things was that there were the walls were covered in black and white checkerboard print, and it was flashing a strobe light, and it made it really difficult to get through it because you'd be walking and it felt like you were kind of jumping forward. You like it was really difficult to like keep track of where your body was in the space, which I thought was a really cool effect. And then outside of the checkerboard rooms, there was one room where the fog was at about waist level, a little higher than waist level. So, like, up here it was clear, but then down there it was waist level fog, and there was bright green light in the fog, so it made it really difficult to see past it. And, we walked in there thinking, oh, this is interesting, and then a girl pops up, dressed, horrifyingly, and she popped up out of nowhere, and I thought that was a really, really cool effect. So kudos to them for some really cool special effects, or practical effects, I guess. I think practical effect is the term I'm looking for. But it was really, really kick-ass. They had some fancy. Ash and I both bought a wand from a vendor, just because something to remember it by, and they were really pretty. And I also bought a little keychain that said Dragon's Blood on it. It's a little glass vial with red goo in there that says Dragon's Blood. So that was nice. We ended up getting some funnel cake, some corn dogs, and some pizza. And that's about it, honestly. After the haunted house, Ash and I decided to go visit a cemetery. It was a public cemetery, so we weren't in risk of trespassing or anything, but it was very, very big. It was a really, really big cemetery, and it was a really good time too, because it was just generally very spooky, because it was pitch black in there, and the only light we had came from our flashlights. But it was still a really, really good time. We looked around at some graves, some gravestones and a couple of mausoleums. We were there for about a half an hour. And then on our way out, we actually stumbled across an area that was reserved for infants who had died. And it was honestly, like, I wouldn't call it spooky, I guess, but it was definitely kind of like tragic. It was very tragic to like be walking through that little area of the cemetery and seeing, there were a good 200 or 300 graves, and it was just really sad, but after that we hopped in the car, and so I've never talked about this before, but Ash and I commute to work from a small town in Iowa into a busier town in Iowa, and there's this one road that we take that we have seen some spooky shit on. Just to be blunt, we've seen some spooky shit, and by spooky shit, I guess I mean, if you've never seen it, look up the night crawlers in Fresno. Basically, these night crawlers in Fresno are these. They're about 4 feet tall. That people say they're about 4 feet tall, and they're little white creatures that basically have like a little head and long legs and like no torso or anything, and they just walk along through the night. So if you know what I'm talking about, you know, and if you don't, check out Fresno night crawlers. But basically, what we've seen matches a night crawler's description really well, and so we decided that we would take our video camera and see if we could capture anything. Unfortunately, we didn't. Of course, the one time we're recording, we don't capture anything. So, but we've seen it on the side of the road, on this one long stretch of road that's about 5 miles. And so we went to go capture it, couldn't find anything, obviously. But after that, we just went home, and I crashed because I was seriously exhausted, and both of my hips hurt really bad. It's November 3rd now, and they're still kind of hurting. But that's primarily because while we were at Sleepy Hollow, I didn't use my wheelchair. I actually didn't use my wheelchair at all on Halloween. I would have liked to, but Sleepy Hollow was not accessible at all. And of course, neither is a cemetery, really, in general. So now I'm kind of paying for it with my sore hips and everything, but it's really not too terrible. I had a really, really great time. And definitely next year, Ash and I are going to try to attend Slaughterhouse when it's open. We accumulate vacation days at work, so part of our plan is to use some vacation days to basically go to a shit ton of haunted houses around Halloween. So we're just going to request off and go through a bajillion haunted houses. So that'll be fun. But, that's a year away, so whatever. We'll get around to it. I think that's all for today. I haven't posted in a long time, and that's primarily just because I've been so tired. I work a couple of days a week, and by the time I get days off, all I want to do is lie around and relax and try to decompress. So, but I'm going to try and start posting more often. So yeah, thanks for watching, and happy belated Halloween. Bye-bye. Remy, come say bye. Bye.